Today, the committee continues its work toward opening the federal marketplace to small businesses. Important tools in this endeavor are an array of programs that, through their training and business development, help this nation's entrepreneurs get a foot in the door. The need for these initiatives could not be greater. Recently, the Small Business Administration announced that for the 6th year in a row, the federal government failed to meet its small business goal, costing entrepreneurs $4.5 billion in lost opportunities. The committee took an important step in bringing equity to our procurement system when we passed Mr. Braley's bill, H.R. 1873, the Small Business Fairness in Contracting Act. However, to fully benefit from the changes that were made, a strong complement of contracting programs is also required. We rely on these initiatives to spur the next generation of supplies, providing diversity that allows the taxpayer to get the best value for its dollar. Unfortunately, many were created in the 1960s and have seen little change since then. As a result, they have fallen into complete disarray, largely due to mismanagement, underfunding, and neglect. Modernizing, and in some cases, such as with the Veterans and Women's Procurement Program, simply implementing them will be a start. The way the government purchases services and products is constantly changing, and the bottom line is that these initiatives need to keep pace. No Fortune 500 company will enter into a long-term relationship without a strong understanding of the types of resources that are necessary to keep the partnership growing. But that is exactly what agencies are doing today with the 8A program. If we are serious about business development, then it is critical that barriers are removed, true incentives are provided, and long-term relationships are treated as such. This will ensure efforts invested by both sides result in tangible benefits for the federal marketplace. It is also vital that programs stay true to their original intent. Earlier this year, this committee took steps to address the practice of large businesses receiving small business contracts, just as we closed loopholes, which cost small business billions in lost opportunity. We also need to make sure that contracting initiatives don't fall prey to similar unintended consequences. Certain initiatives, like the Hub Zone, have strayed from its initial purpose. On the surface, it has a goal of economic development in low-income communities, but in many cases, this program fails to accomplish that. Today, 80% of all firms are not even eligible after 3 years, and a preliminary committee review found that many hub zones contain multi-million-dollar homes. This is not exactly what one would expect for an initiative designed to spur development in low-income areas. Not only are more resources needed for oversight, but also greater protections to weed out the bad actors. While many who raise opposition over these initiatives point to the shortcomings, it is important that, as the committee proceeds, we focus on the original intent of supplier development. They are not intended to be handouts, and this nation's entrepreneurs aren't looking for one. What they do want is a fair opportunity to provide goods and services. With proper reform, these programs can do just that. Small businesses play an important role in all of our communities. They are the innovators, discovering 1/3 of all new patents. They are the market pioneers, representing 99% of all exporters, and they are the job creators, providing nearly 75% of Americans with their first job. Through thoughtful improvements coupled with legislation passed earlier this year, small businesses can add another function to the list of critical roles that play in today's economy, suppliers to the nation's taxpayers. With that, I yield to the ranking member, Mr. Chabot, for his remarks.
Thank you, and good morning, and thank you all for being here as we examine the government contracting programs authorized by the Small Business Act and their effectiveness in providing greater opportunities for small business concerns to contract with the federal government. This hearing also will provide an overview of the Small Business Administration's management of these programs. I'd like to thank the Chairwoman for holding this hearing and each of the witnesses for taking the time to provide this committee with the testimony that you'll be giving here this morning. The Small Business Act states that the essence of the American economic system of private enterprise is competition. The preservation and expansion of such competition is basic not only to the economic well-being but to the security of this nation. Such security and well-being cannot be realized unless the actual and potential capacity of small business is encouraged and developed. Small business embodies so much of what America is all about: self-reliance, hard work, innovation, the courage to take risks for future growth. They are values to be passed on from generation to generation. We must ensure that our small businesses continue to thrive and prosper, not just for their own sakes, but for all our benefits. To help achieve this objective, Congress recognized that providing goods and services to the federal government would be one way to support the growth and development of small businesses. The Small Business Act contains congressional direction to use federal acquisition policies to ensure that small business concerns receive a fair proportion of the total contracts for property and services. Despite the growth in small businesses, the overall share of small business in selling goods and services to the federal government does not reflect the growth of these businesses in the overall economy. This has occurred even with a number of programs that are specifically designed to help targeted small businesses sell their goods and services to the federal government. The SBA oversees programs providing contracting assistance to socially and economically disadvantaged groups, more commonly called the 8A program, firms located in historically underutilized business zones or hub zones, including a number of such zones that happen to be in my congressional district in Cincinnati, service-disabled veterans, and a women's procurement program that has yet to be implemented some 7 years after congressional enactment and 2 years after a judicial decision finding the SBA unreasonably withheld action in not implementing the program. As the committee continues its works on these programs, I think it should seek legislation that meets the noble objectives of the various SBA contracting programs while reducing the friction that exists among these various groups of small businesses. In addition, the committee should ensure that these programs operate in the most cost-effective manner possible. We have excellent witnesses here today to provide us with insight into government contracting programs authorized by the Small Business Act as amended. I look forward to their testimony and any ideas that they may have concerning the objectives that I just laid out. And again, I want to thank Chairwoman Velázquez for holding this important hearing and look forward to working with her on necessary improvements to the contracting programs overseen by the SBA.